Hello, and thank you for joining me for my hot topic presentation, addressing inequities in LGBTQIA+ elder care and end-of-life choices. In this first slide, I would like to look at the three cornerstones of successful aging, which are economic security, social connections, and health and well-being, versus the challenges for LGBT aging adults, which is a lifetime of discrimination and lack of legal and social recognition, a reliance on chosen family, and a lack of competent inclusive healthcare. For introduction and background, LGBT elders face many challenges as they age, including systemic barriers in housing, healthcare, and finances. Studies show that 40% of LGBT older adults experience social isolation at a rate that is double than their heterosexual peers. As the baby boomer generation ages, the number of LGBTQIA+ elders is expected to double by 2030, intensifying the demand for culturally competent care, anti-discrimination protections, and housing reforms. Without significant policy changes, many will face neglect, poverty, and inadequate care in later years in their life, particularly in privatized elder care facilities that are not equipped to support LGBTQIA+ needs. Housing and homelessness. These elders are at an elevated risk for housing insecurity and homelessness due to widespread discrimination in elder care facilities and retirement communities. LGBTQIA+ couples are often refused accommodation or face harassment, leading to a lack of safe, affirming housing. A 2023 report from the National Alliance to End Homelessness indicates that LGBTQIA+ older adults are disproportionately represented in homeless populations, with many unable to access affordable housing due to systematic inequalities. Additionally, without legal protections, many LGBT elders fear entering these long-term care facilities, which exacerbate the risk of homelessness and health complications. For our mental health challenges, aging individuals belonging to the LGBT community experience disproportionate high rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation, and are 2 to 3 more times likely to experience mental health disorders than their heterosexual counterparts. Social isolation and lack of family support and culturally competent healthcare worsens these mental health challenges. End-of-life care and human suffering. In many states without right to die laws, LGBT elders face terminal illness. They endure prolonged suffering and loss of autonomy. Many LGBT elders, particularly those who are financially insecure, lack access to supportive end-of-life care. With growing populations of aging individuals of the LGBTIA community, expanding rights to die legislation across states is crucial and critical to ensure that these elders can make an informed, autonomous decision about their end-of-life care. Studies show that in areas where such laws exist, such as in Colorado, individuals report a higher satisfaction with their end-of-life choices and greater dignity in their final stages. Now we will look at elder discrimination. Many of these LGBT elders often face discrimination and neglect in elder care facilities, where staff are not trained to provide culturally competent care. Reports from PBS highlight widespread abuse and harassment in long-term care settings, with many elders from this community who face not only isolation but physical and emotional harm. The financial challenges that this community faces is due to a lifetime of wage discrimination, exclusion from financial benefits like pensions, and the impact of systemic inequality. Many LGBT elders face severe financial insecurity. Additionally, aging transgender and LGBT people are at an even greater risk, with a large portion living below the poverty line. As this population ages, this financial disparity will increase the demand for public resources and safety net programs. Currently, 27% of LGBT elders live at or below the poverty line, compared to only 16% of their heterosexual peers. And then what does that look like for the public resource impact? The rapidly aging LGBT population will place increasing pressure on public resources like healthcare, Social Security, and long-term care services. These elders face financial and health disparities and are at a risk of being underserved by these systems. The National Institute on Aging reports that this population is disproportionately affected by shortages in public resources such as housing, transportation, rising medical costs, often leaving them reliant on underfunded programs. Now, to address social work and social justice, social workers are definitely critical in addressing the systemic disparities faced by LGBT elders, advocating for policy changes that promote equitable access to healthcare, housing, and elder care. As the aging LGBT population grows, social workers must collaborate with healthcare providers, the criminal justice system, as well as working closely with different state and national lawmakers to ensure that protective laws are enforced and that LGBT elders receive culturally competent, affirming care. Social justice requires actively dismantling the systemic barriers of racism, gender identity discrimination, and homophobia that marginalize and harm LGBT elders. This involves reforming policies, advocating for inclusive healthcare, expanding legal protections, and ensuring equitable access to resources that directly improve the quality of their life. Conclusion to call to action. As we reflect on the challenges facing this elder community, it is clear that urgent action is needed to ensure their rights and dignity. Social workers and advocates must lead the charge, pushing for policy changes that provide protections, affirming care, and justice. Together, we can build a future where every elder, regardless of identity, is supported with compassion and respect. Let's continue to work towards a more inclusive and equitable system for everyone. I will leave you guys with these questions that I will also put on our discussion. And here are my references. And thank you so much.